Hey, we are back. Alright. Welcome back to another episode of Uninterrupted. Starring me. Anyways, T56. Got the, I get that light out of the eyes. Got some parts. Finally got the clutch here in. Took a little while of emailing back and forth, multiple messages. We got it. Still waiting on a couple lines, but this is the video of every part you may need if you want to go the same route I did. So starting, we will start with the flywheel. Flip her in there, so that says the part number there. Make sure it matches what I got wrote down. Yep, 464102. So, SFI rated. It does not say it on the package, but inside the box, I swear. It does have the SFI sticker. Kind of hard to see, but it is important that you go through and check all your bolt holes. Check the finish on it. You're going to feel there's a finish on it. Comes fairly well packaged. One of these oil papers to keep it from rusting. This package was a little damaged. Not a big deal, as long as the part isn't damaged. Again, part number, if you want to write it down, you can. I've got a whole list of stuff here. I'll show that whole list later on. If we move on to the bell housing, there has been some debate on whether this bolts up to the T56 Magnum. This is the RM8074. I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but I can give her a shot. Yeah, right there. You can see no gap. And you'll have to take my word on it that the bolt holes do line up. If you want to see more on it, there is a previous video. Engine plate goes on the front. Gonna get all that mounted up today. Get that back off out of the way. Again, SFI approved. The transmission, as you can see there, been sitting here collecting some rust on the input shaft. I ended up having to spray some lube on it. So transmission itself, not including the input shaft, is about 30 inches long. Because if I remove that, your shaft is flush with the seal on the output. So about 29-ish inches. See, I've got a block off plate on there. I do have the shifter for it. So original shifter location, the front of it would have been in that area. So this transmission goes straight back another little over 14 inches. This does drop down just a hair bit. Not by much, but it does. That is the 16885 to it. So GM Viper style T56 Magnum. The slip yoke is what I've got wrote down next. This is right there. So this works between the T5, T56, and several others. It is a nice piece. 1350 style U-joint. It is a billet. Did show the part number, right? Yeah. So that part number is the T3-3-249 1 HP. So it's going to be back and forth. It does have the ring groove here on the outside. The only thing it had me wondering on it is it does go in and touches the seal, and I could probably, yeah, I could press on it and it collapses the seal. So because the shaft doesn't stick out past the seal, it does not go in the hole as far as it probably should, but I'll measure that accordingly, because if you send this to a drive shaft shop, you're going to have to probably tell them your drive shaft needs to be a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch shorter. So you want to take that in mind. It does say Sonex on it. Nice piece. Next we got written down pilot bearing. Part number right there. PBM 03101 Alpha A. So video is going to be a little fumbly. So mopar, here's my old pilot bearing. The outside diameters on them are within a 1,000th of 3. Your inside diameter here is different than this one here. I did check the outside diameter on this versus this one, because I was curious if, because when you go pulling this out, just this bearing itself comes out, and then you've got to take and get this one out, the rest of it. So as you can see, some hammering, chiseling, drilling. So the outside diameter of this one is different than this one. It is not possible to just pull this bearing out and slap into that bushing. So I'll show you on the transmission. It does slip in. And I know on the old bearing, it's got writing on the outside of it. That writing goes towards the outside. So as you see this in here, it's got the lip. And from what I can tell, this lip goes towards the outside. So this would go like this. The flush side goes into the engine. The part that sticks out goes towards the transmission. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sure somebody in the comments will let me know one of these days when people start leaving comments. Again, stick this slip yoke back in. That way I don't lose anything. Everything tries to stay in some type of order. And then we've got the Tick Performance. Let's see. That is not the part number. I believe that one there is. Mid shifter. Get this thing open. It comes fairly well packaged. These bags, the block off plate and bolts came in. You got your shifter here. I guess since I got the one plate still on there, I can't really show it sitting on the transmission. But somewhere, I don't know if it said it on the box, but at least on their website it is recommended to buy some bronze bushing. Not needed, because your ball joint here fits right in where it's supposed to fit, and it's within a few thousandths. So unless that bronze bushing was only like the thickness of a hair, it is definitely not needed. Nice looking piece. Threaded holes. I have not checked the thread on those to see what they are. I have a bolt here. It is not a 3/8 by 16. It may be a 3/8 fine thread. What it kind of looks like, because it did feel like it was a 3/8 bolt. So I'll have to get a couple bolts for that. Not a big deal. The biggest part is getting the transmission in, and then I can worry about that. Alright, now we move on to the clutch. This here, part number, if you do get this stuff from McLeod, got their nice made in America stuff on it. Get the camera set up. I have had this out of the package already. It does come with instructions. Tells you your different bolt torque specs. A couple of stickers. You got your oil sheet to keep things from rusting. It does come with 2 installation tools. One for the smaller pilot bearing, one for the larger. So this would be your GM Viper style, and this one I assume is for the Ford style transmission. Oh. It comes with one of these. Drawing a blank. Your throwout bearing. Yeah. It does look like the same thing I had. The same style at least. Flips in. Or at least it looks very similar. Yeah. Should fit just fine if I was to use it. If it comes with one of these packets of silicone gel stuff that you probably ain't supposed to eat. Nicely packaged. Again, it's got the finish on it. I do like how this is all packaged. I haven't had a clutch assembly package like that. Make a little standoff to help keep everything centered. And then your clutch disc. You just have your springs. Sits down on there nicely. So on this one, another reason why it's important to check all your holes and whatnot. So if we grab the pressure plate bolts, they should go in, and you should have just a tiny bit of movement. That way you can install it and uninstall it. So as I was going through this, you can see the inside of this hole still has the paint on it. Come over to this next one, and you can see no paint on this one. Over to the next one, you still see the paint there. Around to the next one after that, you can still see some paint, but you can see where it's nice and shiny. Don't have to show them all to you. And back to one that has been fixed. Put your bolt in, move it around. So when I first got this, started checking my holes, this bolt would only go in, I think the threads would fit, but then once I got over to the shoulder side, it would not fit. So there was every other hole was had too much paint, powder coat, whatever it is. So important to check everything while you got it out. You're not laying on your back. Crawling in and out from underneath the vehicle. Because that gets annoying real fast. Again, part number 75319. Alright. Let's move on to the throwout bearing. This is how it comes packaged. You do get some extra fittings. I want to say there were some lines in here. And you've got your collar here is a beveled side. When I got it packaged, it was like this. I do believe when installed, if you have to use this collar, bevel side goes in towards the face of it. So this is a retainer. I believe they call it something else by now. Back in the day when I've had to replace them on transmissions, that's what they was called, was retainers. Yeah, so lines are in there. So pull the bearing out from the back here. We do have seals. They don't seal anything, they're just rubber O-rings. That helps hold it on this retainer nice and snug. And then you can actually take, and you can see it unscrew. So instead of having shims in here, this just unscrews to whatever thickness you may need. So you will want to put some type of assembly lube on this. I think that it says in the instructions what to use. A couple drops of ATF, I believe. Got two braided lines. These are a -4 AN. They do fit, and that's what these extra little fittings are for. So you do have bolts, 4 bolts for your 4 bolt holes on your retainer. Even though they do not line up, only 2 of them do at a time. So you've got a bleeder that should screw into here. I believe I've already checked this, but it's been sitting here for a couple weeks waiting on the clutch. Really couldn't move on without getting it. So screws in. I do not plan on using these. I bought different ones. So screw 2 pieces of line together. This other piece is for a quick connect. I'll come back to that. But so nice hydraulic bearing, tells you everything in the instructions you may need to know. Make sure this is pressed in all the way. Right there. One of your 2 lines should be facing towards the top. These do move. So if your adjustment, your screw-in adjustment made it to where your fittings face towards the wrong side, because your transmission line should be coming out on this side of your transmission. I don't think there was any revisions in the transmission for them to be over on the passenger side. So you could turn them if need be. I'll show you on this. You do have a bolt. This is a metric thread bolt. M6, I believe. I am going to use the bolts that came with it. Put that on there. Get a bolt hole to line up here. You see it there, that and there don't, that and there does, this and here don't. If you take and turn it, then the other two do. And the first two don't. So, with it lined up, your other bolt holes are about here and here. So I'll move it so you can see how far off it is. So that's why I bought this bolt. I'm going to chop the head of it off and turn it into a little bit of a point, and then screw it into the non-holes that don't line up. And I'll give it a little tap, make a mark on the back. I think I'm going to drill this out to where I can actually use all 4 holes. I don't see it causing an issue by using all 4 holes. Not sure why all 4 don't line up. I did message McLeod about it, and that's what they said. Just use 2 bolts to hold that on. I don't agree with it, but that's what they said. So it's what you got to do. If you want to use all 4 bolt holes, if you're good at using the tape measure, and then you can just measure them out, or whatever. Buy a bolt like I did. Chop the head off of it, grind it into somewhat of a point. Give her a tap. You'll make a mark on the back. You can re-drill your hole, and then you can bevel your holes like they did on theirs, because it does come with 4 bolts. If it only came with 2 bolts, I wouldn't have had to message them. If it only had 2 bolt holes in this instead of 4, again, why they can't make things, or at least put that in the instructions, I do not know. Now, next, with the wiring harness, as it says there, should be for the T56 or the 6060 reverse lockout control module. I did not write down the prices of everything, so you'll have to just go through and check everything yourself. I do not see a part number on this package, but I have wrote down the part number is an ELUN-10013. So this allows you to use your reverse, because without power applied to the solenoid on the transmission, you are locked out of reverse. So this in here makes it where you can use your reverse, works off the speed sensor. So if you are going 0 speed, or at least maybe 1 or 2 mile an hour, if it reads that low, I don't know. We'll find out after the transmission's installed. Although I won't be able to tell the mile an hour readings that it's actually getting. So, and we've got a mount, a polyurethane mount. I assume you can read this stuff. And yep, there is the part number, 3.1108R. I've installed some of these before. I don't know if they was from the same manufacturer, but it does come with this plate. Comes with instructions Comes with some bolts, washers. I do believe when you're bolting it on, you're supposed to use this plate. That's the way I've always installed them, at least. At the very least, it keeps pressure on your bolts when you tighten them up to help keep them from coming loose. It may add a little bit of vibration dampening with that. I do not know. It only came with 2 bolts, and I believe they threaded into these 3 holes here, so you will have to have bolts that go through here, because these bolts, even with the 2 plates together, they're in a sealed package, but even with the 2 plates together, your threads are only going to stick through what, half an inch. Not long enough, in my opinion. So, try to keep everything together till it's actually installed. Alright, hydraulic lines. You've seen the 2 that comes with it. They come with the adapters. Again, if you want to go the easy route with the quick connects, you can get these from McLeod. For your, they call this the male end. Not to be the same as the male end that comes with the throwout bearing, because they are a different size, as you can see. So I'm not sure what quick connect this is for, whether it's for some type of Ford or Chevy. I do know if you buy the lines from the parts store that has a quick connect, I think these are like a Chevy GM style. It is not the same as what comes with the throwout bearing. But part number 139204. This in here is male to the AN. I'm still waiting on the other ones that I ordered of these. These are not exactly cheap. Again, you comes with stickers, some type of instructions, a mounting plate, or it says quick disconnect tool right there. So I think this was roughly $90, and even the shorter ones that I bought to replace these, because I'm going to put short ones on the throwout bearing side with quick connects. That way I'm not having to lay underneath the vehicle to bleed it, and or use a bunch of wrenches to be taking things apart and putting it together. So I'll go over all that once that stuff is installed. I should have the rest of these lines in a few days. If you do have the Chrysler Mopar and you want to use the roll pin stuff for, say, your factory master cylinder, you can buy a straight or a 90. Comes with new roll pins. This was both were from McLeod. Your part number on the straight one is a 139026. The one, let's get the 90-degree elbow, is a 139027. I will say, if we take this out of the package, try not to lose anything. So this here is a seal on the end of it. Remove that. I haven't verified these ones directly, but you've got this little lip on the end. Most likely I'll have to take and trim that down. What I've done to other ones that I've tested this with is chuck this into a drill and use some 80 grit emery cloth and just press on that, and you just keep grinding it down till it fits. Make sure it fits in all the way. There's your roll pin sits right here. You can look down through your roll pin hole, make sure it fits. Your little O-ring keeps it nice and snug in there so it doesn't leak. I plan on using the elbow, so I won't necessarily be able to chuck this end into a drill and use emery cloth there. I'm going to have to find a different way to do that. If I need to, most likely I will. So that's why I left this piece out, just to go over that hydraulic line quick connect. The pigtail you'll need for the speed sensor for this wiring harness. This is a Dorman product. Trust them if you want to. I ain't gonna go into all that. Part number 645213. This is just for the speed sensor. This is not for the reverse backup light sensor or any of the other sensors. So it does just fit the speed sensor. I did verify it fits. We got these two white wires. Got the ends already chopped on them. That's how it comes. You would think that this wire harness kit would come with such things, especially when you pay their prices for them, but they do not. Get to your bolts. So you've got your 3/8/16 thread bolts. These hold your clutch pressure plate to your flywheel. They do come with some blue Loctite. I assume that's what it is at least. Might just be some type of moly lube, but I haven't opened it up and squirted any out to see what it feels like. It does say blue thread locker on it. It is made by Permatex. Your part number on this is the 1512. I have went through, made sure all these do fit. They do come with washers. These are supposed to be an ARP bolt. They do not say ARP on the package, and they do not say ARP on the head of the bolt. It's got, looks like an AXS, and I can't read the rest of it. So if you're familiar or unfamiliar with ARP hardware, your washers are directional, so you'll have one This side here is more of a flat black straight across. This side here is more of a gloss enamel color of flat black, or flat, not flat, but just black, but it's got a beveled edge. That beveled edge goes towards the head of your bolt. You can fit it the other direction, but it's only supposed to go this direction. 12-point head on it. Most ARP bolts I've seen actually set ARP on them. You got your flywheel bolts. These are a 7/16 20 thread. Says GM and Ford. By looking at that, if I didn't know, I would assume that these also fit a GM and a Ford, but only if that GM or Ford product has the same threads, because not every engine has the same threads. So again, check your bolts. These here do fit the small block Chrysler, part number 1540. If you don't have a way of checking your bolts and threads, get yourself a bolt and thread checker. They don't cost much. Alright, that covers my list of things. One thing I did want to mention is on your hydraulic lines, if you do go with the quick connect styles, your male is the 139204. Your female part number for the opposite side of this is the 139203. The -36 indicates the length, so you would use the same part number up to the 204 or 203, and then whatever length you need is the last two numbers. So if you need 11 inches, it would be the 139204-11. 12 inches, you just have a -12, -30 for 30 inches, 48 for 40 inches, whatever that may be. I know by getting on McLeod's website, it's almost like a joke, because you want to look through parts to see what they may have available, and they do not show much of a list of anything, so you have to more or less email them, call them up. It can be a little bit of a hassle dealing with them. My experience was it was a hassle, at least. So, but here's my list that I made up of everything with part numbers. So you've got your flywheel, everything has a star next to it, or X. Is stuff that I bought from McLeod. I may be off on something, I may not be. So you got your flywheel, the 464102 bell housing, RM8074 transmission, the TUET 16885 slip yoke, T332491 HP, pilot bearing, PBM 03101 alpha, and then you got all the rest of it. I'll see you guys later.